So I was going to the coffee place again, like I always do, because I guess it's just cheap. And I've been bringing my phone back, and I've been trying to figure out a way that I could download things when I was at the coffee place because they have internet. So I just randomly thought of anything that I could possibly want, and I figured out that I always wanted a newer version of the ZenWalk operating system for a really brain dead kind of laptop thing I have at home. So ZenWalk is like a really stripped down version of Linux that works on computers with low amounts of memory. So my experience with the earlier iPhones is it's difficult to download things because they don't have the Files app, which seems to allow for sort of like a downloads area where things could hopefully download. I never really tried it. But what I did was I found some apps. I went through some apps, and luckily it wasn't long before I found a solution for the problem, which seems to work. So this file manager app that I found is similar to iSaveIt in that it has a few different options at the bottom, and one of them is kind of like a web browser. So when you're in the web browser, you go to the thing you want to download, and then when you download it, it goes into the files area. And when it's in the files area, what makes this really special and what isn't the way in iSaveIt is that you can then share it through AirDrop, and that's really what makes it work, because my 6S phone is actually fully implemented, and I can AirDrop it to my 6S phone. Yeah, so when I was there's some sort of soccer game that's like really historical, and I guess we did pretty good, but it's just like 1-0 kind of binary game. And I was downloading these things at the same time. I also downloaded a movie off the Internet Archive as another experiment, especially because the 5C's web browser is like kind of like incompatible these days with the internet generally. It really helps have very simple download scheme. Like this is the simplest of the download schemes, where you just have a link like this, and then it would ask you just to download this. What happened to me is that the download stalled on both files, and I went back, I started the download up again, and it actually appended to the existing file, which I really didn't expect, and I was worried that it would be somehow repeating the earlier part of the file in the upper part of the file, but that turned out not to be the case. It did in fact append. So that's what an iPhone 5 looks like. It doesn't have the files, but it has the camera and the photos, the same as my 6S does. So to get the files into my computer, what I've traditionally done from an iPhone 6S is connected to a server using those three dots in the Files app on the iPhone 6S, which point the Windows share becomes a location. Then you can use the share button to save into files, and then you can copy any arbitrary thing into your computer. Now, what I've noticed is that in some cases there's restrictions on what you can copy. And the weird thing is the Apple phone will actually copy it to the PC or the computer, and then it will delete the file once it's done it and say operation not permitted. So in that case, that's what happened with this ISO image. But what I did was I was copying it as it's coming in. I copied it to a file, and I guess it's because in Unix the file exists until all the file handles are closed, so I can basically grab it. If the timing's right, I can grab it and I get the whole file. But it's very kind of useless that way. And also, the newer iPhones, they don't allow you to copy certain things to Windows anymore. So that's why I'm really looking forward to not upgrading my 6S because of that. So I was really surprised to see that my first attempt at doing the copy of the file coming in had the same MD5 sum as listed as the file on the website. So that pretty much guarantees that I had all of it, and there's nothing wrong with it either. So that was really great. So at this point, I copied the ISO image to a USB stick, and then I booted the laptop sort of thing and booted off the stick, and then I wiped out the former installation with this new installation, and I installed everything I could install, and it was a good amount of tools. So the last ZenWalk I had MPlayer on it, and I was expecting to be able to use MPlayer to play any sort of media, and I think what's probably happened was it's pretty illegal, so they probably didn't include it. There's some sort of media player in there, but the interface is just pitiful, and I could never get to start a file, and if it did, I don't know if it'd work or not. But I noticed there were some MPlayer sort of shared libraries on the system, so maybe it had there was some of that in there to be able to do that. But anyway, I recompiled MPlayer from the latest source, and it did compile on the system and install, so that was really great. So reviewing the data path, it goes through wireless to this router here, which is my access point. I was hoping for more activity on the LEDs, but there's a little bit there. Then the data goes to that network switch down there, which also hooks in the cell phones, which is usually where things come from. That's why I'm concerned about this, because of their data limits. And that computer there is where the file is physically stored. That's being played by the laptop-y thing.
Now, join us as we venture inside and discover what's left.